Welcome back to Nutrition Lawyer channel. If this is your first time with us, welcome. Please hit the subscription button and the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever we post a new video or whenever I go live. And if you're coming back to the channel, welcome back. It is so wonderful to have you here with us. All right. So on Nutrition Lawyer channel, we focus on helping you get healthy and stay healthy and well. We also give recipes and tips and tricks on how to lose weight and how to do fasting, whether or not it's intermittent fasting or full fasting, and how to detox your body, your mind, and your soul. So you not only have good nutritional health, but you're also happy. Because if you're eating well and you're looking good and you love the way you look, you're going to be happier, right? Yeah, you'll be happier. That's just how it is. Okay, so let's get into today's video. So today we're going to be talking about, is fasting dangerous for our health? Is intermittent fasting dangerous and will give us a heart attack? So we're examining a new study, and this new study was presented at a conference at the American Heart Association. And the American Heart Association endorsed this, right? They put this out there, and all these news channels and newspapers started writing and talking about it and how intermittent fasting is going to give us a heart attack or heart disease. And so people are rightfully concerned. I've had a number of my clients who have been fasting with us who are very concerned and very alarmed because they're wondering, and now, is fasting going to give me heart disease or a heart attack? I'm doing fasting in order to prevent disease, not to get disease, right? And so this study is really alarming. I'm going to be sharing that study with you, and we're going to go over a little bit of stuff about this study, okay? Now, last week when I interviewed Colleen, who has been fasting with us for over a year, we did touch on this study a bit, but I did not show the study and what it was really saying in detail. So I'm going to do that for you all today. So we have all our evidence, right? As a lawyer, this is what we do. We do our research, we gather evidence, and then we analyze and synthesize all of it to see what works best. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. All right. Now, remember, whenever you listen or watch anything or read anything, particularly a study, you want to make sure that this study is legitimate, right? That it's being having good data, right? And also you're looking at how the data is collected. So I am looking at how do they get these people? Is it a randomized controlled trial? Is it a clinical trial? Is it just people giving their opinions, etc., right? And then I'm also always wondering, who is funding this study, right? Always think about who is paying for this and what are they getting out of it when they pay for it, right? Because let's be real. Most times when you're paying for something, you're expecting something in return, right? That's the human condition, that's human nature. So I'm always wondering who's paying, how are they benefiting, right? Always think about that, right? So now let's turn back to this study, right? There are people, as I said, who are very alarmed and very concerned, and you should be alarmed and concerned. And we're going to find out what's really going on with this study, right? I'm also going to go into some other studies that also examine intermittent fasting, okay? Studies that have been published. So in this video, I'm actually going to draw from Dr. Berg's video. I'm going to leave Dr. Berg's video on fasting and this particular study in the link below. And I'm also drawing from Dr. Sten Ekberg's video, and I'm going to leave his link below as well, because these two doctors, Dr. Berg, who is a chiropractor and studied nutritional health for several years, and then Dr. Ekberg, who is a medical doctor who has also studied nutrition. I follow both of those gentlemen's channels and learned a lot from both of them. All right. So I'm going to link their videos on this particular topic with this study in the channel so that you can go and watch those videos. Okay. Dr. Berg and Dr. Sten Ekberg. Watch their videos on this as well. Okay. Because they give invaluable information and I love their channels. Okay. Now, I'm going to turn back to a little bit about me. Okay. So I am a practicing lawyer. I am not a medical doctor. Okay. Big disclaimer, I am not a medical doctor. So all the things that you're going to hear from me is from my own research that I've done and also my certificate in nutrition science. Okay, so I have a certificate in nutrition science from Stanford University. I did several months of a nutrition course in that program and learned an amazing deal on nutrition and health. Okay, and I highly recommend that program. So if you're interested in the Stanford program on nutritional health, highly recommend it. You should definitely go and do that that course. All right. So one of the things that we learned when I was studying nutrition science in that course is that we examined a lot of nutrition studies, and nutrition studies, they're a mixed bag, right? Sometimes they are randomized controlled trials or clinical trials, and other times they're just surveys of people trying to recall things about what they ate when they ate, right? So what you're looking for in nutrition studies is whether or not it's a randomized controlled trial. That's number one. That's the gold standard, for nutrition studies. Okay, so if you're seeing a randomized controlled trial, your eyes should light up. You should get excited because, right, the way that data is collected is going to be very objective, right? Controlled, right, for certain factors, right? Randomized. So highly reputable, highly credible, right? Results that you're going to get from that, right? And you may have a non-randomized study, but it's also controlled. Okay, so like that's the next level. So there's steps, right? The highest level, randomized controlled trial, then your next level, then your third level, and now you get to the bottom level, like the low level, and the low level is just surveys, right? Nutrition surveys. You get a survey and it says, what did you eat last month? Or what did you eat last week? And you fill it out to the best of your ability, what you can recall. Sometimes you recall things right away. Sometimes you can't remember exactly what it is. Sometimes you write the wrong thing. That's surveys, right? We've all taken surveys. Ooh, child, we know about surveys. We're all human, right? We are not super people. We are all human. We all have flaws. And we know that when we take a survey, we could fudge it, right? Sometimes it's not even intentional. It's that you may think that this is what happened. It's not what happened, right? We have memory issues and recall issues. I don't care how much memory you have. If I ask you what you ate 2 weeks ago on Monday, unless you eat the same thing every day, you probably won't remember, right? Totally normal, totally human. No judgment. Absolutely no judgment and no shame, right? So let's turn to our study so we can look at it, right? And examine what exactly it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so here is our study. And this study that is causing alarm all over the country for folks is published or put, because it's actually not really published yet, but it's in the Science News, right? And it says it's an 8-hour time-restricted eating linked to 91% higher risk of cardiovascular death. Oh my God. I mean, what in the world? I mean, 91%. You're telling me that if you intermittent fast, right, within an 8-hour eating window or less, your risk for heart disease goes up by 91%. I mean, that's almost 100%. I mean, that's just 9% less than 100%. So that is so alarming. It's just shocking. It's insane, right? It's craziness. Like if I eat at noon and I eat then at 6 p.m., full, wonderful, nutritious meals, and then I'm fasting the rest of the time, right? They're saying that I could die of a heart attack or heart disease by almost 100%. Wow. Yeah, that's insane. It doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't even make sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and read a little bit of this study and examine it, all right? Not just my word and my reaction, but we're going to examine what they say, okay? So share my screen again. All right, so let's see. All right, so here we go. This study was dated March 20th, so it's very recent, right? March 20, 2024, by the American Heart Association, right? And it's a study of over 20,000 adults that followed an 8-hour time-restricted eating schedule, which is a type of intermittent fasting. And they had a higher risk of death from cardiovascular disease by 91%. That's what they're telling us, okay? Now let's see how the data was collected. Now this study wasn't published in a peer-reviewed journal yet, right? So it's literally unpublished and it hasn't been peer-reviewed yet. But the American Heart Association presented this, as you can see on your screen, at a conference, right? There is a scientific conference that they have from March 18th to the 21st, and this was presented at that conference on the 20th of March, okay? Now, there are folks who have been intermittent fasting for years, and they're doing that for health and wellness and good cardiovascular health. And so, of course, we're all concerned that this is the result of this particular study, right? But we're also concerned because it's such a high number, like 91%. I mean, that's just like over the top, right? 91% is over the top. Okay, it is absolutely over the top. All right, so let's go ahead and look and see what they're saying. All right, so it says that these folks followed a fasting period of 16 hours and they ate during an 8-hour window, right? So they were fasting for 16 hours per day and they never eating during that 8-hour window. Now, study is a survey. So remember when I told you in the very beginning that on the lowest level is surveys, right? Nutritional surveys, because you can't really like verify that stuff because it's not controlled environment, it's not a controlled trial or anything. And so people can just write whatever they want and whatever they recall, and we have memory issues with recalling things, right? So this is a survey. So this is literally like on the lowest level of scientific data that you can get, right? It's okay. Now we're going to turn to the study a little bit more. If you can see on the screen that it was nutritional surveys. Okay, from 2003 to 2019, nutritional surveys, and they're comparing it with death that happened from cardiovascular disease from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. Okay. Okay. They also, the authors of this study also noted that this study is an outlier because the other nutritional studies that actually included trials or clinical trials or randomized control trials showed that intermittent fasting was wonderful for your health and your heart and your brain, right? Okay. All right. So, as we know, so this is what the study says, and that folks should be careful and re-examine how they're doing intermittent fasting. They should be fasting for less than 16 hours. They should be fasting for less than 16 hours, and then their eating window should be bigger, like maybe 12 hours. Okay. All right. We're gonna go ahead and yeah. So that's our study, folks. That's our study. Our study is surveys, nutrition surveys, and these nutrition surveys now. I'm going to leave the link below for the study in this video so that you can go ahead and you can read it in its entirety. And you will realize that they didn't control for anything, right? So there's no control for the types of food that people are consuming, right? People could be eating fast food, junk food, highly processed foods, or ultra processed foods. Nothing was controlled for exercise. So we don't know if these people were exercising or not. Any type of movement, not controlled for. Stress, it wasn't controlled for stress. So we don't know what kind of stresses the folks in the study were under. I will tell you, we don't even know what their professions were or anything, right? We know that, for example, the legal profession, my profession is one of the most stressful professions on the planet, right? People come to lawyers when they are generally very stressed and in very precarious positions that they need to battle, right? They're going to battle somehow. And so generally when folks are coming to a lawyer, they're coming under very, very stressful conditions. And then lawyers, we ourselves are very stressed because we're trying to help folks with their problems. So massive problems, right? We're either trying to keep people out of prison, we're trying to keep people from taking people's money or getting your money back, trying to keep your name and reputation solid and not being defamed. I mean, just think about just the mountain of problems that that comes to lawyers. So lawyers are very, very stressed out. So are medical doctors, so are dentists, psychologists, psychiatrists. So just think about like we can't control for their stress. We don't know what stresses they were under, right? And then there was no control for their sleep either. So they could be insomniacs, can't go to bed, can't sleep, which also stresses you in general, but it also stresses your heart, right? Your heart is under a lot of stress. So none of these things were controlled for. I mean, this is wow. So nothing was controlled, right? And then of course the big thing was also the food, right? I mentioned that like we don't know what they're eating. So there's no control there. Okay. Now people fast to improve their metabolic health. We fast for weight loss, we fast for longevity, we fast to improve our brain health. When you do a 3-day fast, your entire immune system renews itself. Like literally, your cells are being repaired, right? We get rid of cancer cells when we're fasting, etc. And so, how in the world is it then doing a negative number on our heart? It doesn't even, it just doesn't track, right? With all the stuff that you're getting from fasting. So, so, um, so people are rightfully, as I said, concerned, rightfully concerned. Now, personally, I've been intermittent fasting for 6 years, and I started doing full fasting 4 years ago. So I do a monthly 3-day fast every month for the past 4 years. And prior to that, I was just doing intermittent fasting. But I've done intermittent fasting where I had a 4-hour eating window because I was trying to lose weight because I was overweight and unwell and sick. So I did a 4-hour eating window for a while, which got a lot of weight off of me. And then I did a 6-hour eating window. And then I went to an 8-hour eating window. And now I'm generally between 6 and 8 hour eating window when I do intermittent fasting. Okay, so I can tell you that I'm perfectly healthy. My heart is fantastic. My brain is fantastic. I'm at my goal weight. I mean, so fasting has done wonders for me. Okay, and I'm a huge advocate of fasting. But that's personal. But I'm going to now look at some nutritional studies that are also covered intermittent fasting for you. So you can get sort of the lay of the land so that you can get objective and independent perspective and research apart from the one we just showed you. All right, so let's go ahead and share the screen for the next study. Okay, so now this, as I said, there are lots of credible studies that were done on intermittent fasting and that are continuing to be done on intermittent fasting. And so this is the next study I'm going to show you all. Okay, and I'm going to leave a link for all the studies in the description so that you can click on them and you can read them at your leisure. Okay. Now, this study, as you can see, it was published in the National Library of Medicine. And the NLM database publishes scientific literature, things from the National Institute of Health, etc. Okay, so we're going to look at this study a bit here. All right, so as you can see on your screen, this was a 12-month study of time-restricted eating, which is intermittent fasting, and resistance training. And it showed that it improved the inflammatory markers and cardiometabolic risk factors. Okay, so they in this study, which is a single blind randomized study, okay? They took 20 men and they underwent 12 months of either time-restricted eating or a normal diet protocol, and with some resistance training. And what they found was that the folks who did the time-restricted eating, right? The folks who did the time-restricted eating were, their risk for cardiovascular illness was reduced. Their factors were reduced for cardiovascular illness. And not only that, their inflammation went down. So as you all should know, especially if you follow me at all, and if you've watched this channel before, you will know that I always tell you that inflammation is the foundation of disease. So if you have inflammation in your body, that's where you're going to develop this disease. And so I am a huge advocate of fasting because fasting reduces inflammation, right? Right? It gets rid of inflammation. It lowers, reduces, and eliminates inflammation in the body. And so when you're not inflamed, right, you're not going to get sick. It's when you're inflamed that you're going to get sick. So this study reduced inflammation, okay? All right. Going forward here. So the conclusion of this study says that after 12 months of time-restricted eating, body mass, fat mass, insulin-like growth factor, testosterone were significantly lowered compared with the folks who did the normal diet. Moreover, inflammatory markers and insulin sensitivity and lipid profile were significantly improved after time-restricted eating compared with the normal diet. Okay? So the results show that long-term time-restricted eating with some resistance training is feasible, it is safe, and it's effective in reducing inflammation and in reducing risk factors for cardiovascular and metabolic diseases. Now, that was a controlled study. And as I told you before, the controlled studies are the best, right? The data is reliable. The data is credible, right? Okay. Now we're going to look at another study, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen for the next one, okay? So this is the next study that we're going to look at. And this study was published in the Journal of Translational Medicine. Now, it examined the effects of time-restricted feeding on weight loss, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular risk in obese women. Okay? So, sort of the background of this, they're explaining why they did what they did in obese women. And according to the background, it says the increasing prevalence of overweight and obesity among the worldwide population has been associated with a range of adverse health consequences, such as type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, which is heart disease. Okay? Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of cardiometabolic abnormalities that occur more commonly in overweight individuals. And so, time restricted feeding or intermittent fasting is a dietary approach used for weight loss and overall health. All right. And it further says that time restricted feeding or intermittent fasting may be an option for those subjects who struggle with extreme restriction diets with foods that generally do not belong to an individual's habit. So if you do intermittent fasting instead of dieting, it can help you a lot to lose weight, improve your health, and be in just a better overall longevity profile, right? So they did this study, and let's see what type of study it was. Let's see if it was a survey. All right. So it tells you the method, and it says it was a non-randomized controlled clinical trial. Right. So the one we just covered was a controlled and randomized, and this one is non-randomized clinical trial. All right. This was done over 3 months in obese women. All right. So they fasted for 16 hours and they ate within an 8-hour eating window, normal food intake that they typically eat. And you can see on the screen that the conclusion was that it lowered their risk factors for cardiovascular disease. Lowered, did not increase, lowered, right? And remember, this is a controlled clinical trial. This is not a survey. Okay? Now we're going to now look at scroll down. I'll scroll down for the conclusion for you on this study. The result. I mean, you can see how extensive this study is, right? Very extensive study. A clinical trial. Okay, so here's our conclusion. Time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting is an effective dietary strategy to promote weight loss and to decrease WC with no remarkable changes in blood biomarkers. Now, this study can be used as an approach to guide health professionals to evaluate and follow individuals engaged in time-restricted feeding protocol since those measurements that they have here would correlate with cardiovascular risk. And this study showed that there was no increase in cardiovascular risk. In fact, it significantly decreased cardiovascular risk in doing this fasting for 18 hours. Okay? So not only did they lose weight, but they also decreased their risk for heart disease. Okay? And this was a non-randomized controlled clinical trial. All right? Now, I'm going to show you another study that involves intermittent fasting. So let's bring that one up. Just give me a moment. This study was published in the Frontiers Nutrition, and it looked at the effect of epidemic intermittent fasting on cardiometabolic risk factors. And it did a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials. So this is great because this is a study of randomized controlled trials. Now, remember, I told you in the very beginning that the gold standard for clinical trials or nutrition health analysis is randomized controlled trial. And this study actually analyzed 4 randomized controlled trials, okay? So they analyzed 4 randomized controlled trials, and the results demonstrated that intermittent fasting significantly reduced body weight, waist circumference, body mass, fat mass, blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, and fasting insulin levels. So it reduced insulin resistance, which causes metabolic disease, right? And weight gain. And of course, I listed all those factors that it reduced, right? So let's scroll through the study a bit here, okay? So intermittent fasting, they're covering that. Instead of saying time-restricted eating here, they say IF, which is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating are the same thing, right? So, and this is analyzing, as I said, randomized controlled trials. And they had a group that didn't do IF and a group that was controlled in IF, right? All right. As I said, I'm going to put this link in the description below for you so that you have these articles and you can actually go in and look at these studies, okay? This one is great because I love that it was randomized controlled trials that it analyzed, and that it analyzed 4 of them, 4, okay, 4. And it goes into various things, like look at IF on glycemic control, IF on heart health, IF on weight loss, all of those things and all the markers for intermittent fasting was a huge benefit for our health. This study is really great too, because it actually puts who is funding it. It puts conflicts of interest, if there's any. Yeah, this is really great. All right. So the conclusion, we're at conclusion, and the conclusion says the review of those 4 randomized control trials has demonstrated that IF, right, may improve body composition, weight, BMI, etc., and blood pressure. It moderates blood pressure very well, blood glucose. It shows what didn't change as well, which is a LDL cholesterol or HDL cholesterol. And then it looked at risk factors in terms of developing diabetes, which it lowered, and says that they're going to be doing more evidence as well. But it shows you that IF is wonderful. Intermittent fasting is wonderful for overall health and wellness. Okay. And then there's going to be one more study, one last study I'm going to show you. So give me one moment while I bring that one up. Okay. So as you saw from that randomized control trial of 4 trials, 4 clinical trials, is that IF or intermittent fasting is excellent for overall health and wellness, right? It went into the fact that it significantly reduced blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, right? Fasting insulin levels, and of course, reduced body fat and waist circumference, right? So you're getting inches off, and body weight in general was a reduction. So all those factors are factors of increasing. Those factors increases your risk of disease and heart disease, right? And it shows that those 4 randomized controlled trials show that it actually helps in all those areas for us. It's wonderful for us, wonderful for us. Okay. And really, we've been fasting for millennia, but I'll get into that in another video. All right. Let me go ahead and I'm going to show you the last study on time restricted eating or intermittent fasting for us to compare. All right. Just give me one moment. Now, this study, as you can see, was published in this journal of cardio and oncology. So cardio is looking at heart health, and oncology is looking at cancer. So you're looking at heart and cancer here, okay? And this study is entitled Time Restricted Eating to Reduce Cardiovascular Risk Among Older Breast Cancer Survivors. It is a single-arm feasibility study. Okay. This was published in 2022. And the eating window that they did was a 16-8. So they were fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8 hours. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit of this paragraph for you. It says, time-restricted eating limits energy intake within a given time window, commonly 8 hours, followed by fasting for 16 hours. It is a practical approach that could improve cardiometabolic health. But its effects in cancer populations or on cardiovascular disease risk have not been studied. And so they performed a single-arm feasibility study to evaluate adherence, safety, symptoms, fat-free mass loss, and preliminary efficacy of 8 weeks on cardiovascular risk among breast cancer survivors. Okay, so let's see what the results are here. And again, this link will be in the description so that you can actually read through the study for yourself and see how it was analyzed and what the results are. Okay. They also talked about the limitations, etc., of the study. All right. So what they found was that there was a significant decrease in cardiovascular risk. Okay. All right. So we've looked at 4 studies, and in one of those studies was actually 4 studies, right? So technically we looked at three studies, and then the last one was analyzing 4, so that's 7, right? And plus we looked at the survey study. So we actually end up looking at kind of like 8 studies today, and out of the 8 studies, 7 of those studies shows that intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating was wonderful for our heart health. It actually reduced the risk of cardiovascular disease, and it reduced the risk of diabetes. It lowered our high blood pressure, improved triglycerides, all those things. Of course, fat loss as well, weight loss, inches off your body, etc. Right? So and all of those studies, those 7 other studies, were randomized controlled trials or a non-randomized controlled trial, but all of them involved a trial and they were controlled, right? The only one that didn't involve all of that was this survey study that says, you know, fasting is going to give us a heart attack. Okay, so we like to look at the full picture on this channel. And even though personally I'm going to share what I believe and what's been good for my health over the years, and I'm a huge advocate of fasting for that reason, I wanted to make sure that you saw other studies as well that were controlled and that were clinical trials that were credible, that are credible, to compare it to this survey analysis study that was just released where everybody's all the news stations are running with it. But interestingly enough, the studies that showed that our health and wellness would improve from fasting, I didn't see any of that all over the news. Did you? Did you see? Did you see it? If you saw it over the news, if you saw the studies that actually improve our health over the news, with intermittent fasting, please post it in the chat for me. Post the link to the news stations that went crazy telling us how wonderful intermittent fasting was for us from these studies that were published. Like I want to see them analyzing these studies the same way that they did this last one, this last survey. Okay? Because we always have to ask ourselves, especially on a channel like this, that promotes healthy eating, fasting, health and wellness, that who is going to benefit from us being healthy? Oh, wait. You, your family, your business, your community. But it's not going to be the corporations. It's not going to be the medical establishment, right? Because if you are healthy and well, who goes out of business? Okay, yeah. So we've got to get ourselves healthy and well, right? So that we can be there for ourselves, for our goals in life, for purpose in life, for our families, for our community, right? That's why we're going to be healthy. If we're in bed and we're sick with disease, nobody's benefiting, but, right? You know who's going to benefit if you're sick, right? Right. What you got to take to, stay alive. Who's going to benefit, right? So just know that whenever you're viewing things, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I never have been, never will be. But I am very rational. I'm very logical, and I can see because I have eyes and they're wide open, right? They're wide open. So I know that the establishment is set up a certain way where they're benefiting when we're sick and they're benefiting when we die early. And we're not. We're not getting any bag and doing anything if we're in bed sick or if we're in the ground. So, my goal on this channel is to help us get well, stay healthy, and have longevity and a happy life, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're sick in bed, if you're living long, you're not doing anything right. So we want to be upright and we want to live a happy and a long existence, right? So tomorrow, I am going to go live with a wonderful benefit to Black women. Okay, so please tune in tomorrow. Make sure you hit the subscription button and hit the notification bell so you'll know tomorrow when we go live at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m. on Sundays, I'm going to do a live and we're going to be talking about Black women's health again. It is still Women's History Month. Okay, so women's health. Now, next week, next Sunday, I'm going to go live again and we're going to be discussing Black men's health. Okay, our health is in crisis. Black women are in crisis, Black men are in crisis. So we're going to be addressing Black men's health on that live. All right, so make sure you tune in, okay, and make sure you you send this link out to other folks so that they can learn about intermittent fasting, the benefits of intermittent fasting, as well as examining this latest survey study with clear eyes and details. All right. And please, if you've done intermittent fasting and it's worked for you, please let us know in the chat. And if you have done it and it didn't work for you, okay, also put it in the chat. Let me know. Let me know. I want to see like what it's doing for other people. I know it's done wonders for my health. It actually helped me prevent a surgery that I didn't need to have because what they were going to remove disappeared after I was doing my intermittent fasting. So I want to know how it's helping you. I will definitely talk about my health journey on another video, but and how fasting is just so fantastic. But also, if you want to join our fabulous fasting team and you want to fast with us monthly, our next fast is April 1st through the 3rd. So please let me know in the comments, all right? And let me know also what you're thinking about these different studies that I just discussed. All right, let me know what you think. I want to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. And let's all say cheers. Healthy living.